You can find them on Twitter, you can find them on the gram. After listening to their podcast, you'll be sitting there like, damn, taking their teaching from one level to the next, reaching up to Canada and down
it's a good time.
Mexico.
So one of the things, Valerie, so bringing coding into kindergarten, what were some of the, I guess, struggles, that came along with that? I know earlier you had talked about like parents being like, what? My kid's learning Java and, binary and C++ in kindergarten? What is going on?
So I think that's so frequently just what people go to, and they go to these like adult programmers and the technology that adults see every day. And I think that coding is just really important because it's just teaching problem solving in kindergarten. Mm-hmm. And that's a huge piece. And I think it's so important to have open-ended problem solving where there isn't one right answer. There's many answers, and it's your approach in getting there. I think that really that will that almost shapes the mind of these young kids as they're getting older, because that's the world we live in. We need to live with that type of mindset. Everything is not black and white anymore. There are so many innovative ways and things happening. So, I mean, I didn't really have too many struggles overall. It was just more sometimes like at first, the students were like getting frustrated with each other a little bit, like, no, you go this way. No, you do this. And they weren't necessarily talking to each other with patience and kindness. But I saw quickly after practice, and I loved that coding gave that practice to the kids in an authentic way, that it allowed for them to like problem solve together, work together, and learn how to sequence. So they're just basically sequencing directionality. So forward, right, left, backwards. And they're figuring out like all these things. And there's so many different ways that we can do it in kindergarten, and it's not all on the computer. Most of it's not. I do use Scratch Junior on the iPad. Codable is another great one, and then code.org. Yet we have all those, and those are wonderful things, but there's so many things that you can actually teach them that are completely tech-free. So a lot of the things are board games. I have a little mouse. It's similar to like a Bee-Bot, and even sidewalk chalk outside and building a grid and having them get through that way. We also made grids on the table, and I did a social studies activity, an icebreaker activity. Like I just always tried to pull in different things. And what's so cool, I think, about coding too, is that you can pull in so many different things. It becomes a very multidisciplinary approach when you do it that way. And it's really cool because it just sort of like lended itself every time I went back to it. And I wasn't expecting that either as a teacher when I started. So I appreciated that and loved it. And I did get a lot of comments like, I don't understand coding in kindergarten. What are you doing with my child? But over time, and I did a parent workshop, and I explained what coding looks like and why it's important in early childhood. And parents really appreciated and understood. And I think the biggest thing is that like they were going to third grade and up, and they were getting introduced to coding, but they really didn't have a lot of background knowledge before that. Right. They were jumping into like higher level coding. So if you start off earlier in their early childhood and work their way up, they get those basic like off-screen coding things happening. Then when they go to third grade, they're going to even be more solid in it. And I know so many students that are like, I can't wait, and I want to be in coding club, and it's really cool. And another piece too is just like the book, like I chose 3 woman characters because I really think that when you look at after school coding programs, most of the time they're boys. And it's just, I want girls to also know at a young age that they can do things in STEM like this, and that they have a voice, and that they can be programmers one day if they want to. It's just, I want them to feel inspired and empowered by these 3 women that are, the characters are based off of, but also just the book itself.
And I love that they're like historical programming, women. So like they can actually go back and look at a biography about this woman who is a character in this story. I think that's really awesome.
Thanks for listening to the Teaching Arts Podcast. Keep up with every new episode by subscribing on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Podcast, Anchor, or anywhere you listen. Remember to visit teachernerds.com, and that's nerds with a Z. Follow us on Twitter @TeacherNerds and on Instagram @TeacherNerdsPodcast. And thank you for being one of the Teacher Nerds.